courts closed for a month because of COVID.
Oh,
So Allen County courts.
is that good?
And that's why.
That's a big set of that, you know.
Okay, you're live on Facebook.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Major, you can call to order.
All right, I'd like to call the meeting order, please.
And they restricted them here, and then kids because of COVID.
We're live. We're live.
Thank everyone.
Hi.
All right, so I guess if we could go into roll call, please.
Mr. Major,
Here.
Mr. Baum,
Here.
Mr. Beltner,
Here.
Ms. Holycroft, here, Mr. Keller,
Here.
Ms. Phillips,
Here.
Mrs. Siebert.
Present.
All members are present and accounted for.
Here. Okay, so I would like to approve the October 29th meeting minutes.
I make a motion to,
Motion, I make a motion to approve.
And all in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. All right, hearing none, we'll move on. So the committee reports, Community Relations Advisory Committee, and then Education and Employment Challenges Committee.
I think in regards to community, I just want to say in our community notes, we kind of said that we would pick the play self-evidence. I kind of just want to leave that open for right now because we're doing a discovery on if that's possible.
I'm sorry, Sonia, I couldn't hear you. Can you speak up a little louder, please?
You never hear that, right? You can hear me.
Sorry.
That's kind of funny. In regards to the community minutes, we had said that we would try to advise to do the play self-evident truths. I
Yes,
think we can leave that open right now as to we will advise a play. We're still working on research if we can, still working on copyright and whatnot. I just don't want to set it in stone that it's just that play.
gotcha. I think that's the only open item. I think all the other items are closed. We were going to follow up with reporting. And myself and Todd Sievert will create the reports to hand over to the city council. So I think we're good there for Community Relations Advisory Committee. And then the Education and Employment, I know we have some open items there. So I would like to move to approve if we can, because we all are clear on what's still open. So if we could move to approve, and unless there's any further discussion that's needed.
I'll move to approve that. I think that's good.
Are there any opposed? No, I guess we are all in favor then. Thank you. So, I guess let's get right into our presentations. And so we would like to welcome Tracy Mosier, Trey Heffler, Brian Sexton, and also, do we have Sean on?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm Sean.
Oh, hi, sorry, I didn't.
That's
see
all
you.
right.
So I'd like to welcome you all to our meeting. Thank you so much for coming. I know that Salome worked to get everybody here on time and during this time. So unfortunately, we have to cut our meetings to about an hour and a half. So we had you scheduled for about 15 minutes each. So I think since we moved through our agenda very quickly, we can give you at least 20. So thank you.
Well, you
so
should
much
also
for coming.
consider time for questions and answers. So that's why I did 15 minutes and plus 5-10 minutes for questions and answers. So it gets you to 25 minutes actually. So.
Perfect. Thank you. So first up is Hobart Brothers. So Trey King, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Absolutely.
Yes, good evening. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So we were hoping that you would come and just talk with us about your recruiting practices, your hiring practices, and just kind of tell us how we can partner with you all to help people in Troy to get connected with your organization. And it'd be
Yeah.
fantastic to hear. Thanks.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, I think Trey's going to share a short PowerPoint presentation that we put together, hoping to provide a little bit of company background and orientation, because there is a lot of confusion in the community about Hobart, be it Hobart Filler Metals or Hobart Corporation. So Trey's going to kick us off, and we'll go from there.
All right. Can you guys hear me okay and see my screen?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, we can.
So yes. As Tracy mentioned, if you are from the Troy area, you probably are familiar with Hobart. They have a long-standing history with the Troy area. We are Hobart Filler Metals. There is the Hobart Institute, and then Hobart Food Equipment Group. So again, my name is Trey Heflin King. I'm a lead applications engineer at Hobart. I've been with the company for 8 years, and I co-lead our Hart group with Tracy. So go ahead, Tracy, quick introduction.
Yeah, my name is Tracy Mosier. I've been the Human Resources Director at Hobart Brothers for about 8 years now. I'm from the community originally, and I'm really, really pleased to be able to co-lead our Hart team with Trey, and he's going to cover that in some detail at the end.
Okay, so again, Hobart Filler Metals and also Food Equipment Group are part of a larger organization called ITW. So again, when we talk about the school, they are kind of separate from us. And then we are a different business unit from the Food Equipment Group. We are in the welding segment. So ITW is a Fortune 200 company. They are headquartered in Chicago. And as you can see there, we have a number of breakdowns of where we're located. It's a global business with about just a little bit over half of that being in North America. So this is a quick background of Hobart Filler Metals. So again, in 1917, you have the Hobart Institute of Welding Technology, which we are still kind of housed with. That is where my division is in the same building attached to the Hobart Institute. In 1937, they started making filler metals, which is the company or the part of the division that we represent. And here in 1966, Hobart was acquired by ITW, Illinois Tool Works, adding filler metals to their global expertise. So we are sistered with Miller Electric up in Appleton, Wisconsin, that makes the machines that run our filler metals. So in the Troy area, we have a number of facilities. We have what's called our Westbrook facility, again, which is where Tracy and I are stationed. That will be the largest plant. We also have our Kings Chapel facility. We have a facility in Piqua. And then we also have a plant in Traverse City, Michigan that produces our aluminum filler metals. And then we have a number of warehouse locations in Texas, Oregon, and Ohio, with the bulk of that being our product being shipped out of the Ohio warehouse. And so next, Tracy will go into our kind of the things you're interested in, the demographics and our hiring practices and things like that.
Thanks, Trey. So on this particular slide, you see our vision, which is to provide high quality, productivity-based consumable solutions. We have about 400 employees. We usually range between 400 and 450. About 80% of those are hourly, and the rest being salaried exempt. About 400 of them are in Ohio, and then the remaining 40 up in our Michigan facility. And then we normally have a high number of temps. We do our attempt to hire program called Gateway. I will tell you, COVID has changed that a little bit. So I think right now in-house we have about 2 or 3 temps. Our revenue prior to COVID was about 210 million. Obviously, COVID has hit our business hard like everyone else. And we are headquartered here in Troy.
Hey, Tracy, you're fading in and out.
Okay, do you need me to do that again? Or did you get,
I think we're good. You're just falling off the mic a little bit.
okay, well, I'll get out my HR voice and we'll try a little louder. So. Thanks, Todd.
It's just
Hi, how
connection.
are you?
I never thought I'd hear Todd Sievert tell me to speak up. So, all right, with regards to demographics, it's important for us to say, you know, our employment figures meet and exceed the local community demographics for race and gender, but it's a really low bar. And so that's something that we continue to strive. We look at our demographic area being Montgomery County, Miami County, and Shelby County. Approximately 10% of our workforce is diverse and 15% female. Our average age is about 46. That's come down quite a bit in the last couple of years. And our average tenure is about 15 years. We are really intentional about our hiring practices when it comes to diversity recruiting. And you see on the screen in front of you a number of tactics that we use. Starting off with, you know, having a diverse slate of candidates for all of our exempt positions. So when we post any kind of professional position, we have our inside rule that slate of candidates has to have at least 30% diversity in the slate of candidates for the hiring managers to consider. And we do that pretty religiously across ITW. We use diverse recruiting sources in terms of diversity recruiters, professional organizations like the National Society of Black Engineers. And then we also partner with college affinity groups. So we have some key colleges that we partner with, universities that we partner with, Ohio State being one, Ferris State up in Michigan being one, University of Dayton, Wright State. And we try to partner with their diversity affinity groups to help increase there. Another thing that we have done is we have summer internships every year, and we try to target having a 30 to 50% of our interns being diverse as well. We see that as the feeder pipeline into our organization. We've also been expanding our recruiting net south towards Dayton for our production operators. It's an extremely challenging labor market right now. And so as we've gone further south, what we have found is there's greater opportunity for diversity there. We also we've done some direct hiring initiatives and offered referral programs for our employees. We believe good employees know good employees, or good candidates, and also diverse employees know diverse candidates, and that has helped us as well. And then we did adopt the Ban the Box ITW wide earlier this year or last year, I can't remember which now. But I know one of the questions that Salome had asked about was felony convictions and whether that was an automatic ban on our hiring initiatives. And the answer to that is no. What we do is if there is someone with a felony, we do a case-by-case review of that to see what's the nature of it, what's the recency of it, what's the trend, what's the pattern, how does it tie directly to the position for which they're interviewing, and then we make the decision based on that. I think, yeah, this next slide, Salome asked us to talk a little bit about the challenges that we face. And it'll be interesting to hear what the other two companies say, but what I would tell you is we're finding hiring anybody right now to be a challenge. It is an extremely tight labor market for manufacturing positions. And what you see on the slide there is a number of the reasons that we're facing. One is COVID. It's difficult to bring somebody into our facility and train right now and maintain social distance, and all the safety precautions that come with that is a challenge. People are hesitant to come to work right now. I think unemployment has been pretty attractive. There have been a number of people who are laid off and planning to stick with their current companies. So lots of things that make that a challenge. Add on top of that, we run a 3-shift operation. It's 3 shifts, 5 days a week. And when we're hiring for our plant positions, they're primarily off shift 2nd or 3rd. And those don't tend to be extremely attractive. A lot of people are more attracted to those 1st shift positions. And then the last 2 bullets that you see on there, Salome had asked us to talk a little bit about, I'm going to talk about transportation first. What I will tell you is we do not offer transportation. We don't provide it. It has been a bit of an issue for us. We have a number of employees who will ride share. And as you can imagine, when one employee goes south in terms of either they're ill and can't come to work, or they quit, or they get terminated, whatever, then that other person has lost their ride to work. So that has been a challenge. With regards to childcare, we also do not provide any kind of childcare. It is because our workforce is predominantly, our average age around 46, and we don't have a lot of female operators. 24/7 childcare is probably less of an issue for us than it is for someone like, I imagine healthcare probably has a greater challenge there with a higher percentage of females. It is an issue, but it's not the biggest issue for us. Transportation would be a bigger issue for us. And then the other thing that I wanted to talk on just a little bit is this whole concept of attracting and retaining, especially when it comes to diversity in the workforce. Having diversity is one thing, growing your talent, developing your talent is another. So, it's not enough just to have a diverse workforce. It's important to us to have those voices around the tables where the decisions are made. So what we're trying to do internally is to build that culture where all talent, including diverse talent, feels safe, feels valued, feels like they can make a difference. And so our commitment is to do more to build an inclusive environment that helps retain that talent, because we believe once we build that culture, and we're well on our way there, that's going to help us attract even more. And so HART, which stands for Hobart Against Racism Team, is one of our local initiatives that's solely focused on building that culture internally. And we believe that this HART team that we're working on also has tentacles externally into our community, which is kind of how we got hooked into the commission this evening. So I'm going to turn it over to Trey and let him talk a little bit about HART, and then we'll take any questions you might have.
All right, so as Tracy mentioned, stands for Hobart Against Racism Team. Just a quick history on it. This really stemmed from the death of George Floyd. Our VPGM and other leadership members, approached me, was like, hey, how you doing? What are your thoughts and on things going on? So we sat and had a very candid conversation about the George Floyd situation, and then just my time at Hobart, and the things that I go through in my day-to-day in general. From that, it stemmed just like, hey, let's get in front of the larger leadership group, and I want you to, also share those experiences. And so we started meeting since June. I think we have down here June 11th. We've been meeting pretty consistently once a week since then, and just talking through different experiences, different social topics that are going on, and just having a really good conversation. And part of that is, what can we do, as Tracy mentioned, to change our culture, and to make Hobart more attractive, and not only for the ones that are there, but to help bring more people in. So it took us, a little bit to come up with a name and the mission and vision statement. I think we had that before anything else, but this is our vision here. And I'll just read it to you. It's to be a safe space for uncomfortable conversations regarding racism, diversity, and inequality at our jobs, in our community, and in our homes. We are a network of support to help foster these conversations, both inside and outside of work. And through sharing different perspectives and experiences, learning and understanding history, leading into the silence of uncomfortable conversations so that everyone feels safe, valued, and seen, and share what we learned in serving in our community. I want to say one of the things that I remember sitting on one of the first meetings with you guys is this here, learning and understanding history. And I know that came up, like what's being taught in schools. And I think throughout our conversations, like we have a very basic understanding of some things in history, especially when it comes to Blacks and African Americans and their role in history, but there's a lot that's there that's glossed over that we missed. And so we've been actually sharing a lot of those, just basic history and learning a lot from that. So our mission is we will make the uncomfortable more comfortable and create an environment where people want to work and live, sharing what we learn, and having conversations with others. We leave out each one reach one, teach one. That is definitely our motto. We realize everybody won't be on board. We realize we won't be able to, affect everybody. But as long as we can have one productive conversation, that's a win in our book. So this is our vision in action, some things that we've done this year. Of course, starting the group, again, partnering with Shane at the Lincoln Center. Again, as Tracy mentioned, this is kind of how we got put on to the Troy Commission here. So we are we donated to them for their Thanksgiving feast. We're having some volunteers go out and help with that. One of the things we just had this yesterday was our first hard conversations at Hobart, where we basically took what we do in our weekly meetings with our small group there, and we kind of extended out to other employees, like office and salary employees. And we had a pretty good turnout, about 60 people. We broke them into small groups, and we just had a really nice discussion. We've been putting things in our company newsletter. That's what we use to also update about COVID and business related stuff. So we put things in our newsletter, and I participated in some leadership training myself, and another coworker also participated in this executive leadership training that was specifically targeted for minorities. And so in 2021, we plan to, continue working with Lincoln Center and the Urban League. Hopefully, once COVID gets past, we can do more stuff in person, more tours, more trainings, more just hosting things and working with them. Of course, our continuations of our conversations. One of the things that came out of our conversations this year is that we talked about and learned about Juneteenth. And so now that is a holiday that's on the books for next year. And another thing coming out of it is, how do we have better, more effective diversity and inclusion training? We've gotten some feedback that, it's kind of very, can come out very judgmental. And so in our group, we've been trying to figure out ways to make it more productive and ultimately, really get to some good unconscious bias training and things like that. So that is our spiel in a nutshell. It's like 17 minutes, a little bit over. Any questions?
I just got to commend you.
Yes, I do too.
That's
Yeah, that is wonderful.
trailblazers in a situation that definitely needs it. So, yeah, I just want to commend you guys. I think that was stellar.
Thank you. I will tell you that 2020 has been such a horrifically challenging year for everybody in so many ways. But I don't want to speak for Trey, but I will tell you, for me personally, we meet on Thursday afternoons. Thursday is the day of the week where I am excited to go to work, and I'm excited for our 3:30 meeting. And when we leave at the end of the day on Thursday, I feel like it's one of the most important hour and a half of my week, every single week. And I will tell you, admittedly, I've learned more about Black history in the past 6 months than I have known I'm 55, my first 55 years of life, and I'm embarrassed by that. And I think that's one of the things that we're coming out with is we know we can do more. We just have to figure out the how.
We have to do more.
It's interesting because that's pretty much how this whole thing formed too. As a group of people went to the mayor and said, we need to do this. And when, and sort of the same impetus, we had to sort of march downtown, and that's what sort of led to all of this. So it's cool that there's some synergy there. I have a question for you guys. Internally, obviously, you're doing things to attract and bring in a diverse workforce. Do you have any recommendations or anything that we, I guess, because we're primarily city oriented, any areas where we can do better or things that we need? I know the group is going to give a presentation, and you guys haven't been privy to these conversations, but we have maybe a half dozen initiatives that we're going to propose to the city. But before we put those and memorialize those in writing, we would love to hear from employers if you have ideas of things that we could do, either to recognize the diversity of our community or to attract a more diverse workforce in our community. So if you could share any ideas with that. And then I just have one follow-up, which isn't over related, but do you guys incentivize ride share?
No.
It's just, if you come, you know.
Correct.
Okay, so that was just a question that popped up in my head if that was incentivized. And then, but to the other question, is there anything you would recommend based upon your meeting since July that we could do better to create a better environment?
Trey, do you want to go first or do you want me to?
Or I can just be real quick. I think it's always, it's about representation. So any, hiring events, recruitment events, things like that, it helps to see someone that looks like you. So wherever that is a possibility, I think that is, that's a plus. One of the gentlemen that we had, again, Tracy mentioned, we recruit at Ohio State. So yeah, I was doing the job fair that day and he came by, gave me his resume. And so and he is a Hispanic, African-American gentleman. And so, yeah, he gave me his resume and we ultimately ended up hiring him. And so I worked with him for the past 2 years and then he moved on into our program. And so now he is down in Houston. But, in talking to him, that was one of the things that he made him consider the job. He was like, okay, I've seen somebody that looks like me there, so I won't just be the only one.
Have you had anybody object to Troy being too small, not having enough of a cultural awareness? Has that been any sort of impediment to recruitment?
I will tell you, I don't have any objective data to throw in front of you and say, here it is. But I will tell you subjectively, yes, I believe that has happened. I can tell you that when we have candidates coming in to interview and they almost, so for the professional positions especially, they will almost always go around, they will tour the city, they'll go talk to the schools. When they don't see other people who look like them teaching in law enforcement, walking the city streets, they immediately go south. And I will tell you that most of our Black employees will migrate towards the Dayton area. Culturally, it's hard in terms of, where do you go here to get a haircut? Where do you go to get food, right? We are not the most diverse community. And when you look on our websites and you look at and please don't take offense to this, but you look at our city leadership, we have to look more diverse to attract more diversity.
Thank you.
I don't know who said that, but you're welcome.
I did. I wanted to say amen, but I really wanted to say.
Well, we feel pretty passionately about it. We've had we've used Emmanuel Acha's Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man as much of our fodder for our heart conversations. And we've had some really uncomfortable conversations where I think a lot of eyes are getting opened to my experience is not someone else's experience. And we all have to get better at recognizing that.
I'll just add too. So in my my department that I deal with in the applications with hiring, a lot of times, yeah, we do have that conversation because a lot of our candidates, they either come from the Columbus area or Michigan, somewhere where they can, they do a lot of outdoor activities and things like that, hunting, mountain climbing, stuff like that. So one of the things, one of the ways I talk to them or speak to them is like, hey, yeah, that, what you're used to might not be here. But in terms of Hobart, I think we have a really good culture. And that's what I always tell them, like, what keeps me here is not only, I enjoy my job and what I do. I'm like, but ultimately it's the people that I work with. I was like, they are a great group of people and I have not had a bad experience. So that's kind of one of the things I lean on.
Could I ask both of you, do you live in Troy? Either one of you?
I was born and raised in Dayton, Ohio, and I currently stay in Huber Heights mainly because my wife works in Springfield. So Huber Heights is a good midway point for us, me coming to Troy, her going to Springfield. Prior to that, I stayed, pretty much west side of Dayton, Trotwood area, and was commuting up. And, I would say for me, it was brought up, hey, you should move to Troy, But yeah, it was like, I like being around stuff, and kind of Tracy said, like the malls and the movie theaters, like there's not that far away. And so, yeah.
We don't even have the Mayflower anymore.
No, we don't.
And I am from Troy originally, and I live just outside. I live in Concord Township.
And she hasn't changed a bit since high school.
Okay.
You can't see the wrinkles, but yes, I have.
Okay. Well, I really appreciate the fact that you're doing the things that you're doing. They're kind of the things that we've been talking about in this committee. It's just refreshing to hear all the things that you are doing, and keep up the good work.
So, and just maybe food for thought as a comment, we would like more businesses, obviously, to be as put together as they are. Perhaps may we call upon you if we need a model for other businesses and conversations, or maybe even to look at your PowerPoint and to perhaps create a model that we could share with other businesses, since you've already kind of paved the way.
I mean, I think we are more than willing to share anything and everything that we've learned, assuming that other people are willing to share with us, because we're not experts, right? All we're doing is trying to do the next right thing. And we're certainly not perfect at it. And I'm sure we're going to have some trips and stumbles and falls. We're very humble about picking ourselves back up and trying again. So yeah, we're more than happy to share what we know and what we've learned. And we look forward to the opportunity to learn from some of the rest of you as well.
It's so wonderful to hear that one of the largest companies in Troy has seen what's going on and understood it, and also taken very big steps to address it. So very proud to have you as a corporate partner of our city. And so thank you very much for doing this. So we really appreciate it. I just have one question. You were talking about childcare that wasn't necessarily an issue, but you were talking about traveling, and that was maybe one of the, I guess, the larger problem there with your employees. So when you look at travel, are 60% or more of your employees from Troy?
No, I don't have the demographics here in front of me in terms of where they live, but I would tell you that the vast majority of them live in the Troy, Piqua, West Milton, maybe Sydney, working at the Piqua plant. And then we've probably got, I would tell you maybe 10%, and I'm swagging here, I'm guessing. Maybe 10% is coming from the north side of Dayton. Yeah, ish. Yeah, and I will tell you, even regardless of where they live, they could live in Troy and transportation is still an issue, right?
Yeah.
We are physically located in Westbrook. If you live in Westbrook, then great, you can ride your bike or walk. But if you happen to live, wherever, getting to work, especially when it's cold or rainy or second or third shift, that's not easy.
Right.
So I just food for thought, I'm throwing on my partners in Hope hat. We deal with clients every day in regards to transportation, and the continuum of care we're blessed to have housed in our building upstairs. Have you guys had a chance to speak with the Rides to Work program? And maybe could you be the platform to help your leadership understand the importance of possibly helping to fund the program Rides to Work for Troy residents, and possibly an expansion into Piqua? Again, food for thought on the outside looking in, but you seem like such an innovative group that gets it. If you guys could start that conversation, you might change the momentum for all the businesses, and we can create the transportation issue, or we could solve the transportation issue possibly through that program. I'm a big fan of let's not recreate it if it's already happening.
Right.
And so that program is phenomenal. And again, just really could use some support and funding from the people that they, ensure have employees in the morning, night, and possibly they could expand to another shift.
I
Conversation.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I will tell you that we get hit up to fund a lot of different programs, and I think our next big commitment is to the Lincoln Center, and that is if that one goes through, that's going to be a multi-year thing for us. So I would love to tell you we can do it. I would just tell you it's probably going to have to fall in a queue with some other things right now.
And perhaps it's a partnership, it's a co-funding. I wouldn't think that they would expect full funding, but maybe support so they could help you fill the gaps that you are having.
Well, especially if that Rides to Work results in us being able to hire some people that are looking for good jobs.
Exactly.
Because we, at any given time, we might have, I think right now we have 5 openings. But, depending on the day, depending on the month, we could have 20 openings.
Right.
But we need people who are willing to work an off shift and can get there.
So again, with your philosophy of everybody at the table, I would encourage that conversation with Rides to Work. You can contact Jim Taylor. Thank you again for sharing.
I don't have any other questions. I just want to say thank you again for sharing.
Thanks for having us.
Certainly. Any other questions?
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Transition to Clopay.
So next we have Brian Sexton from Clopay.
Yes. Hello, my name is Brian Sexton. I am the Director of Customer Experience for Clopay. Of course, Matt just stepped away. I did hijack our HR manager, Matt Newcomer, who just ran back, to help me on this call because he's got more of the information as far as an HR standpoint than I do. So Matt, if you'd like to introduce yourself real quick, and then I'll get into us.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Thank you first having Brian and myself on. Certainly looking forward to a robust conversation. I am the HR manager for the Troy and Russia plants here in Ohio. And I'm sure Brian will go into maybe some of the other locations that we have dispersed throughout the US.
Right. So Clopay, obviously, we're a manufacturer of garage doors. We're actually North America's largest manufacturer of residential garage doors, and we're second in commercial, just behind Overhead Door. So we ship somewhere around 3,500 to 4,000 garage doors a day. We obviously our main plant and basically our largest and only real plant is in Troy, Ohio. We do have some space in Russia, Ohio, which is where we were originally from. We are 1.3 million square feet under roof. We have 34 different shipping docks out of the back, and we are also a 3-shift operation. We do run the majority of our shifts, all 3 shifts, and we actually do run weekends as well. So we are a 7-day-a-week operation pretty much all the time. 10 holidays a year are about it. So in that, we moved to Troy in 2006 from Russia, Ohio, where our plant was. When we moved to this facility, which obviously was the old Panasonic building for those people who've lived in Troy long enough. So it was the old Panasonic building. We actually consolidated 4 different plants into this facility in Detroit. We had a plant in Baldwin, Wisconsin, one in Auburn, Washington State, and then one in Tempe, Arizona, and the plant in Russia, Ohio. We consolidated all 4 of those facilities into Troy, and a big portion of that was looking for a more numerous workforce, for lack of a better term. So when we were in our Troy facility, or our Russia facility, the one thing we struggled with greatly was being able to hire, for lack of a better term. There was a myriad of small towns around that area, but I mean, if you know anything about that area, you have Midmark and Versailles. We had a couple little factories around those areas that we all kind of fought for the same labor. So we actually moved to Troy. One of the big pushes for that was to be able to find employees. So 98% of the garage doors manufactured by Clopay are manufactured at this plant. The other 2% are actually manufactured in Russia. So 100% of our product is manufactured within a 25-minute radius of the Troy facility. We actually had to go back to the Russia facility because we filled the building we were in even after we had expanded it. So we have a variety of garage doors. We basically have a complete product line for anybody in the world. We do manufacture garage doors for all of North America, but we also have global customers as well. We have customers in Sweden. We had one in Australia, but the exchange rate ended up not making that a thing. But we deliver all over the country of Mexico, throughout Canada. We actually have 2 distribution centers in Canada. So as far as Clopay goes from a manufacturer, we do have 52 different distribution centers across North America. 2 are actually in Canada. The rest of them are in the continental United States. We have one customer that basically distributes our product throughout Mexico. So we don't have distribution centers down there because we actually have a customer that does it for us. So quick timeline, like I said, we moved into this building in 2006. We have expanded throughout the entire time and put quite a bit of money. We had a $34 million expansion that we finished to add our last 250,000 square feet on. We are kind of landlocked in the area we're in right now, and of course, always looking for more expansion opportunities when they're in the area. This is what the building looked like when we kind of got it, and kind of this is what it looks like today. We are a manufacturing facility. So from a hiring standpoint, we have, of course, a purchasing group, an accounting group. We've got the full gambit of production, but the vast majority of our employees are on the manufacturing side, which makes it a little bit tough in the Troy area as far as hiring goes. And, I'll kind of start playing off with Matt here. So as we go through and we do look for employees for our facility, we have struggled finding employees out of the Troy area, especially people that do live in the Troy area. A lot of our employees actually came from Russia, our Russia plant down here in those surrounding areas, and still work here to this day. However, as far the majority of our employees don't come from Troy. We get a lot of employees from Dayton, and we get a lot of employees, of course, up north where we originally were. But as we have expanded and our business has grown, we are knocking on the door of $1 billion company this year. We didn't quite make it, but we were darn close. But we continue to grow year over year. And as we continue to grow, so does our workforce. We do automate, and we tried to look for different ways to automate in our facility. However, our industry is, we don't build a 2x2 little widget. We kind of wish we did. We build a 16-foot, 18-foot garage doors, which are difficult to handle, difficult to manufacture. Manufacturing lines have to be extremely long, which is why the building we're in is set up very well for us. But it does make for unique challenges. Garage doors are heavy. They are not things that are easily handled. So we have to have a lot of some automation and some equipment to help assist in handling. So as we go through and we look for employees, we do have certain constraints that we have to deal with. As far as hiring as of recently, obviously COVID has played a big part in that, in the fact that we have been kind of in a continual hiring phase in various aspects of our company. I can tell you on the customer service side that I deal on, I have been continually hiring throughout the year. We have had some employees, my entire customer service group is actually working from home right now and remotely, and we were able to do that for them. But unfortunately, in a factory facility, you can't, right? I mean, it's just impossible to build a garage door at your house. So those employees, we've gone through great lengths to try to make sure our employees are safe, and we have not had an outbreak or not had issues of COVID. And I think we've done a pretty darn good job as we've managed to get through one of our busiest years ever, and our employees are still healthy. Yep. So with that, is in our hiring facility, we have done job fairs weekly on Wednesdays throughout the area and throughout the region. We do not just do job fairs in Troy. Obviously, we do them at their plant or at our plant. We have gone to Greenville, we have gone to Dayton, we've gone to Pickwill, we've gone to a variety of places, all the surrounding areas. Various schools. We've gone to the Career Center. Everything we can do to try to find employees to entice them to come work at Clopay. To the extent now, obviously from a labor standpoint, and a progression standpoint and a pay standpoint, we have really tried to make ourselves uber competitive in the area in order to not only get employees in, but we're currently changing our pay structure to be able to find a way to keep those employees. Because I do agree with Tracy in the fact that it's not just getting an employee, it's keeping an employee. And one of the things we did find is once we got all these employees in, our churn on those first year employees was our largest amount of churn. It was difficult to deal with because when we finally get somebody trained, and then they leave, that became a struggle. And I'll turn it over to Matt to talk about some of the hiring practices we have.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. So, and just to give a general idea, we employ about 1,500 employees, hand grenade math. I use a lot of hand grenade math because that's why I'm in HR, not accounting. But we employ about 1,500 employees. This year alone, we've hired 550 employees, which is pretty amazing during this pandemic. And a lot of that has to do with the growth that we're experiencing. As Brian mentioned, we do have 2 shifts on the weekends, and we have found that will really produce our productivity. In fact, in the past month, we've added 200 additional jobs to the weekend. So we're opening up additional lines to satisfy the weekend crew. You may or may not know, but Clopay is owned by a publicly traded company called Griffin Corporation. And one of the companies Griffin owns is a company that does contracts with the government. And so the entire umbrella under Griffin is an affirmative action company. So Clopay is affirmative action. And so we closely adhere to that. Some of the efforts that we partake in, we have partnered up with La Vanguardia. It's a Hispanic newspaper located out of Cincinnati. But they have newspaper distribution throughout a large part of Ohio. So we advertise there. They have invited me to come into some of their churches. My Spanglish is pretty bad, so they have to assist me with that. We've also partnered with several military organizations, including Right Pat, and some private organizations to help people who are transitioning out of the military. And we've also partnered up with DECA, DECA, that's the Dayton Early College Academy, located in Dayton. It takes children, shouldn't say children, high school students from the area who promising, show potential, and they put them in through a separate program. So we've been able to market through that as well. As Brian mentioned, we do weekly job fairs. We do college fairs, and we do targeted recruiting, not really targeted, but through all your typical Indeeds, career builders, job fairs. So, we've really done a concerted effort to really attract as much talent as we can. We always joke, Clopay is the largest small company around. You even ask residents of Troy, and they've never heard of Clopay, which kind of surprises me. So we've partnered, obviously, with the chamber to bring in youth from the junior highs and high schools and give them tours of our facilities to try to, one, give them opportunities once they graduate, but also reach possibly their parents as well.
So I think one of the hardest things that we deal with from a diversity standpoint is kind of as Tracy mentioned. I mean, you can hire what's locationally you have around you. So when you look at the northern areas and Troy in general and whatnot, we are not a diverse community. So it's difficult to hire diversity. I was talking to somebody the other day and I said, it's very difficult for me to hire a diverse workforce being an on-site facility for my customer service. Now we are looking at changing that, possibly going remote permanently in the future. But currently, if I have, 7 Caucasian women apply for a job, chances are I'm going to get stuck hiring what I have to choose from. And the struggle we have is actually attracting people to the area of different ethnic backgrounds. Now, if we do have the opportunity and we are trying to go this way to work remotely, obviously that opens everything up from a customer service standpoint into the future of giving us a much better broad reach on who we can and cannot hire, and it makes it more readily available. And obviously from a comfort zone, it allows people to stay in their communities and be able to fulfill those jobs with us as well. We are looking at going down that road in the future, but like I said, the biggest problem we have is the demographics of Troy in general. So, you know, we do struggle with that. I do think it would be nice if we could attract people to the area. Todd, you've had this conversation several times. I think one of the telltale signs in Troy is the fact that all the manufacturing facilities in Troy are hiring. If you go to ConAgra, they are hiring. If you go to Hobart, they are hiring. Honda, I have never seen Honda, advertise for employees. They've never had to. Honda is advertising for employees. F&P is advertising for employees. Every place around here is advertising for employees. And I think there's portions of that make it difficult because, especially from a manufacturing job standpoint, Troy doesn't necessarily have a big enough base of manufacturing employees to be able to fill all the positions we have. So we are going out and we're basically looking at any area we can go to fill those positions. So we are going to pull diversity in with that. The question is, how do we make those people, how do we make it a comfortable environment for everyone to work in, to where we can get people to move to the Troy area. And the second portion of that is from a housing standpoint, and obviously a transportation standpoint. How do we tackle those problems? Obviously the rideshare program through Partners in Hope is a solution to that. And I do know about that program. Jessica Eccles talked to me about it in length. But the struggle is finding those employees in general. We have gone down to Dayton just because the hiring pool down there to try to get as many employees as we possibly can to come up to the area. But transportation is an issue from Dayton. So it's not just a transportation problem across Troy. It's a transportation problem from Dayton. It's not like the Dayton Metro line is going to come up to Troy and drop people off. So we've got to figure out how to solve that problem as well, I think. So with that, that's what we had. Not quite as in depth of a presentation, Tracy, but good job.
Really appreciate you guys sharing.
I think for me, Brian, if you could speak more about, and I'm just interested when you say that a lot of Troy people don't apply or don't hire. I heard you say like there's not a lot of manufacturing people in Troy, but are there any other barriers about citizens in Troy getting jobs at Clopay?
Matt, you can answer if you want. I don't know that there's a lot of desperate barriers. Childcare is probably one. I think we face the same problem that Tracy faces in the fact that we're a seniority-based company, right? So if our first shift jobs are generally filled internally from people that are on their second and third shift. I imagine Hobart is the exact same way, as Tracy had mentioned before. So your first shift jobs, which are the most attractive because it is when your children are, well, normally in school. Right now they're not, but normally it's when your kids are in school, and that allows people to be able to handle the childcare a little bit simpler. So the majority of our hiring comes on the second and third shift mentality. And when you have that second and third shift, it's very difficult to find people to watch your kids. Even not necessarily daycare facilities, it's difficult to find people to watch your kids because their kids are then home. So a lot of your stay-at-home mothers that basically run a daycare out of their house, they don't do it from 3 o'clock to 11 o'clock at night. They do it while their kids are generally in school as well. So I think childcare is definitely a hurdle that needs to be overcome. I mean, I have never seen a second and third shift daycare even in cities. Clopay's moved me around quite a few times. Like I said, I've been here for 22 years. I lived in Memphis, Tennessee. I lived in Atlanta, and I lived in Charlotte, North Carolina, working at Clopay in various positions. And even in those areas, which, I mean, you would think in Atlanta, obviously it's one of the largest cities in the South. It is the largest city in the South. You would think you would see a lot more of that. And it really wasn't prevalent there either. So when you're looking at an area like Dayton or an area like Troy, we definitely don't have that option, or we don't have those facilities now. So I think childcare is a big deal, and I think transportation is a big deal. As far as the one thing I will tell you is Clopay still does drug test. That is one hurdle we have. We've talked about it internally quite a bit. I do know that there are some manufacturing facilities around here that have stopped drug testing. We still do. So we do have a hurdle there that there are employees that come here that we do not employ for that fact. From a felony standpoint, we we land to go the same way as Tracy and Hobart does. We do not discount an employee because of a felony. However, we do research to see what that is and what the situation was.
We are, I like to call us a second chance type of organization. If it's something where it's violence related, we may have second thoughts about that. But certainly if an individual has had a substance abuse problem or felony in the past, as long as they have shown some distance between that, have shown that they've rehabilitated themselves, we are certainly open to employing them. So I would say we're very liberal in that terms, but anything, domestic violence or something to that effect where we could feel like it might endanger our employees, that might be a deal breaker. But it also depends on how long that was. Yeah, so.
I have a question that I asked Tracy the same thing, and maybe it's just because I'm kind of a simpleton at heart and I don't, do you incentivize transportation through employees? To me, this is, everyone has said transportation, and you have an inherent transportation force by your own employees. So if you said, look, if you bring 2 people to work for a week, we'll give you $25 for your gas, I would think that would economically make a lot of sense to bring people, but I don't know, maybe it'd be an accounting nightmare. That's why I went to law school, because I don't know math.
But, I don't come from an accounting background, but it would be, for example, we've recently created a bonus program if you stay here 6 months, and we thought that was a great idea. It's turned out to be a nightmare trying to deploy because there's a lot of regulations, FLSA regulations in terms of you pay out the bonus, then you, if you work in overtime that week, then you have to pay overtime on top of the bonus. And there's a lot of regulations out there that really doesn't encourage a lot of assistance. The $25, if you bring in 2 people, how do we know that? It would be on a good faith effort. Certainly that bonus is also taxed. It's not to poo-poo that idea, but it's there's a lot of challenges when you start going into incentivizing carpooling and things like that.
Tracy's chat actually took the point I was about to make. We're actually discouraging carpooling at the moment because of the COVID restrictions we have, right? So we are trying to space our employees out throughout the lines as it is. But one good thing about the fact that we make a 16-foot garage door is generally people are at least 16 feet apart. So the joy in that is the fact that our employees, our lines are 1,000 feet long. They're not right next to each other. So, but unfortunately, if we've got a COVID situation and we had a guy drive 4 people to work and that guy tests positive, I now have 5 employees that are not at work because they have to quarantine. So we've actually gone to the point now of we're kind of discouraging people from ride sharing. As horrible as that sounds, but with COVID, right, everybody needs to be able to get here. And you hate to say it, everybody's in a bubble. So I get what you're saying, Todd, and it makes sense in a time other than right now. But right now it is not something we encourage.
How many job positions do you have open?
With the addition of the additional lines opening up on the weekends, we are in need of 300 people.
Right.
I see Trey just did a oof.
Do you have numbers on your diversity workforce?
I did ask for that, and they had asked us not to share that. However, I would say we do have a lot of diversity. We have a large Hispanic population. We have a large population from the continent of Africa. We have a population from China. I'd love to speculate, but I'm always hesitant as far as guessing as to what those numbers are. But I would consider us a diverse workforce. So obviously, Affirmative Action encourages us to do that, but obviously it's good business sense to do that even without affirmative action.
And when you mentioned the issues with drug testing and whatnot, and I don't expect you to know this offhand, but when you think of Troy specific, or are you able, because you have a big company, to kind of narrow it down? Is that a specific Troy issue? Like, should we be advocating for more rehabilitation programs, or is that just a reality that kind of the world is going in a bad direction, or?
It's a northern Dayton issue from what I have found. You know, we employ everybody from Greenville to Springfield up to Sydney down to Moraine. I mean, and we have a pretty big footprint. And I would say there's no one particular area that is more impacted than the other area. But, you know, I just believe northern Dayton does have, unfortunately, some substance abuse issues in the community. And again, I don't believe it's focused on Troy.
I do know that as obviously as various states, because we do have 52 distribution centers, right? So we're kind of all over North America at the same time. I do know that as different states legalize marijuana in particular, we are still a drug testing area, or still a drug testing company. And that has posed, even with medical marijuana and everything else, that has posed more difficult conversations and things, and just more difficult and difficulty in hiring in certain areas and in certain states. Because I mean, if you're in the state of Colorado and it's considered legal for recreational use, we still consider it a non-hireable thing. So we greatly limit the people. We have a Denver distribution center. So when we hire in that Denver distribution center, that's a thing we contend with. And obviously with more states going through and legalizing, I think that's going to be a continual issue for the US in general. Not just our area or not just Troy. That's going to be a thing that's going to have to, there's going to be a lot of talk centered around that in the future.
I just like to ask the experience level of the employees that you're looking to hire. Is it, are you only looking for people who have worked in your industry a certain length of period, or no?
We have, if I had to break it down, and certainly I'm focusing more on the production side.
Mm-hmm.
But on the production side, you know, we have assemblers, and really we can take people off the street or right out of high school. Then we have more skilled trade type positions where they're working with hand tools, saws, compound miter saws. And then we have more physical type jobs, loaders loading a truck. So we run the gamut from A to Z. So in terms of experience level, we have dedicated trainers out there on the floor that will train them. Again, those more skilled trades, we're more focused on someone with a little bit more experience, carpentry experience, woodworking experience. But the other positions, it's no, we're not really looking for a certain type of experience.
Okay. No, and you know, it's funny when I talk to the high schools and things like that, because I get pulled into those conversations quite a bit. You know, I tell the kids there, I said, you know, we're a whole big old grown up company. We've got all kinds of different jobs. We've got an IT department, we've got a purchasing department, we've got an accounting department, we've got an HR department, engineering department. We basically got anything for anybody that is looking for a job. But we do run that gamut, right? I mean, no, we are not looking for people that have definite manufacturing experience or can run a CNC machine or can do this. Pretty much, if you can be taught, we hire people, you know, pretty much straight out of high school or straight out of the career center and whatnot, and try to put them into those jobs, because it is a manufacturing job. And as long as somebody can be trained, they can be trained to do a job.
We would even hire someone from Hobart.
We would.
Like your,
You have, and we would.
Matter of fact, if you give us, if you give us an employee list, I'm happy to go through it. You know,
We want all of ours back.
I'm sure. Well, you know what? As funny as that sounds, I think the thing we have in Troy, we do just swap employees. I've had this conversation with ConAgra quite a few times. I was going to say, Sean, I know we've had this conversation. We generally just, you know, somebody leaves Clopay, they go to ConAgra, then they go to FMP, then they realize, oh, we don't like FMP, so they come back to Clopay. And we literally just trade employees back and forth in this area on a grand scale.
And now they're going to go to Pella.
They are going to go to Pella.
And
You know
that's
what?
going to be one more.
And we'll give them a little time, and then they'll decide Pella's not great, and then they'll come back. You know, we do bounce employees around quite a bit.
Can I just say, Matt, go ahead and continue to hire from Hobart?
No, because our culture is so phenomenal that
That's
people are
right.
going to come to us.
We're so impressed, Tracy. We want your employees.
While you're all here, since it is a competitive environment, can you tell me what your starting wages are for all three of your companies? If I went and got a job today, I mean, not, if I was coming in to start, what would you, Clopay, I guess you're on the screen, what would your wage and benefit package be compared to Hobart? Because Pella is obviously coming and they're going to want 400 employees. And there are needs all over. So what is the competitive wage status right now?
For Clopay, again, just strictly production, it really depends if you're a weekday employee, a weekend employee, and what position. It can range everything from $15.50 starting to $18.80 starting. So again, it just depends on the position you're in. We do have what's called a 2-year progression. So every 12 months, you come in at a certain wage. After 12 months, you get a $3 raise. And then at the next 12 months, after 2 years, you get another $3 raise.
And do you provide health insurance? I mean, I'm sure there's a cost, but you provide health insurance and other incentives?
Yeah, we provide a full turnkey benefit program. We offer 3 different types of medical programs, dental, medical, life insurance, free life insurance, free short-term disability. We offer 2 different types of 401ks, a Roth 401k and a traditional 401k. And we also have a employee stock ownership program after working here, was it Brian, 2 years? I should know this as an HR person, but
You start gaining after 2 years and you're fully vested in 7.
yeah, so.
So your wage, I mean, just because if you double an hourly rate, that's about what an annual salary is. So you're at 30,000 plus benefits to anyone who's starting.
Right.
Have you noticed, since you have like a massive amount of, I guess what I would call like entry-level employees making a very decent wage, do you see maybe there might be some need for some education on financial, like it could be hard coming into, like he said, a salary base, but you have lived from paycheck to paycheck, that might cause a struggle in your workforce. Do you see anything like that, or understanding management, soft skills?
So we do offer tuition reimbursement, and a lot of our partners in the community, college partners, will do do tuition deferral. We do offer annual tuition deferment. In the spring of this year, we started to run a leadership development program. Take advantage of everything from emotional intelligence to diversity training. There was a program of about 15 courses. Obviously, COVID kind of put a stop to that temporarily. So we need to figure out how we can, I'm not the biggest fan of Zoom training. I prefer live training, but so we do have a program to develop leaders for future programs or future opportunities.
Sorry. Salome's looking at me. We're stepping on ConAgra's time, so we better give them some time.
Thank you,
You're
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Huge
much.
time.
All right. So next we'd like to welcome Sean Hatch. Thank you so much for coming this evening.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So what I wanted to just start with, I am Sean Hatch. I am the HR manager here at ConAgra, and I just moved here about a year ago from Traverse City, Michigan. I did live here previously and worked in the Greenville area for 6 years. So Traverse City is a great place. It's awesome. I hope you get to visit up there sometimes for your company, Hobart. So a little bit of the history here. ConAgra, you can see, has grown drastically in the last few years. And just a little bit of the history, it was actually constructed in 1949 by the Braun brothers for pork dressing. And then it was purchased by Dinner Bell in 1956 for a kill facility, mainly for ham, bacon, and lard. And then the plant was actually in bankruptcy for 2 years in the mid 80s. So Gilardi Foods purchased it in 1991. And in 1998, ConAgra had purchased Gilardi. So in 2008, the Troy plant began to support the plant in Garner, North Carolina, where it had the Slim Jims were being produced down there, the Slim Jim meat snacks. And then in 2011, we had a project that was a $70 million project for Troy, and it moved the Slim Jim manufacturing facility to Troy from Garner. And they closed the Garner plant down. Next gen expansion was on the Mod line, which is our bakery line. That was a $21 million expansion in 2013. And 2016, we had a smokehouse expansion of $15.5 million increase. We cannot make enough Slim Jims. I've never seen anything like it. I don't understand it necessarily, but I'm thankful for it. And now in 2020, we've added building 3. It's a over $100 million expansion. Construction started in March of 2019, and we are still trying to hire. The goal was to hire 220 by November, and we still are trying to get those 220. We have hired to over 220, but due to turnover, we have lost, and we're still recruiting. We still have approximately, I think it's 36 jobs that are still open. The year built was 1949, 5 major expansions. Size of the property is 38 acres, and total square footage is 303 million. The products we make is the Max Pizza and dough for the schools, and also Gilardi, which is the next gen pizza. And we make calzones, appetizers, breadsticks, all for the school systems. COVID has affected our business as well. It's affected our pizza business in a negative way. And we've actually, I know this sounds silly, but we've been thankful to that because by shutting down some of our bakery lines, it's allowed us to meet more of the orders for our Slim Jims, which skyrocketed. So we also make the Slim Jims, the Monster, the Giant, the Short Sticks, and then we also produce Duke products in our facility. So our SKUs that we produce in this facility, we have 129 of them currently. Hourly employees, we have 897 as of today. Temp to hire employees, we have approximately 20, and we're hoping to start another 20 on Monday. And then salaried employees, we have approximately 51 there. Our corporate office is actually out of Chicago. And here's another picture of our brands, what we have, the Slim Jims and Dukes and the Short Sticks. And then this is the pizza products that we have, and we also produce for Banquet. And then another slide of that. And you can see we're going into the round pizzas. School pizzas has always been the little square pizzas that we've produced, and we've had some orders for the round pizzas to go into the frozen foods such as Banquet. So, and then Troy, we operate by the ConAgra business needs. This is what we live by. We have drive. It's dependable, respect, integrity, value added, everyone, no one is left behind. And then you can see productivity, organization, training, yield, safety, and quality are the 6 big rocks that we focus on. And then we have our strengths, the continuous improvement culture. We are a high performing organization. And so continuous improvement is a major factor. Consistent delivery of operational and cost metrics, technical expertise in meat snacks and dough products, effective delivery of capital project, engaging workforce with evolving true employee ownership culture. And we strive to win each day. Each day we have a calendar that we either put green or red if we made it through the day. COVID issues, I could have just said ditto on Hobart's. Staffing, COVID is really affected us as far as staffing. As far as recruiting, we can't bring people into the plant for tours. We have put in all precautions. We benefit by being a food plant in that everything is sanitized every night. So our COVID cases, although we're seeing an increase right now, they have been very minimal up until recently. But we still don't want to bring the visitors in. We don't want any contamination in the food or the employees. And so COVID has really created a lot of issues for staffing. And then we've been running the Project Covington, also with visitors in and out. And so that too has also affected staffing issues and other challenges that we face. Some of the staffing, we also have COVID, just attendance issues. And I know we touched on, the drug screening as far as being an issue for employees and transportation and childcare. But another thing that we tend to see at ConAgra is a large FMLA group of employees. Several of our employees, a large percentage, I'd say at least probably 25% of our employees have a FMLA of some sort. And so then that requires us to staff over and above needs so that we can fill those positions when they're out. And then having key operators there right now, we have three operators in one area and one happens to be off and the other two are running. And then COVID takes out one of them. It shuts a major line down in our area. So we're really struggling with staffing right now. New hires, recruiting and training. We're doing everything off-site. We're doing recruiting over at the Concord room. So the employees, a lot of times they don't even get to see the facility before they start. They come in and they do an orientation over in the Concord room, and then they come to the plant. And sometimes the working conditions being manufacturing is more than what they expected. And so we're seeing a higher turnover right now as well. And then leadership coaching on the floor, we do a lot of that. That's part of our ConAgra business needs model. And that is where we go out on the floor. We discuss what the issues are of the day, what the plan is for tomorrow. And each leader has to go out and do so many per week. And we haven't been able to do that due to COVID, nor have we been able to do our roundtables and our town hall meetings. And we feel that that's affecting a little bit with the turnover as well. You can see our staffing here. Right here is where we had hoped to be. And we're in fiscal year 21 right now. This was for November. And as I said, our hourly are at $8.87 right now. So, and then you can see our call-offs. That is a major issue for us. Our call-offs, we have anywhere from 25 to 30 call-offs a day. And as you can see, it has really increased this year or this month. And then as far as recruiting, we do direct hires. We do all of the normal direct hiring off the internet, Indeed, apply online. We do the career fairs. It's hard with the amount of people we need to hire. It's hard for the HR team to have the bandwidth to handle it, especially with COVID now because of all the added work to the HR team that's added. And then we still, to do any tours, the 6-foot distancing, we can't allow them to get close enough to the operators. And it's really taken a toll on the recruiting process. We've partnered with agencies and would have normally been temporary agencies. We've actually partnered with them to help us find candidates. And we've worked out direct hire contracts with them. And so we partner with one down in Dayton, specifically trying to reach more minority candidates. And it's the quality of candidates, unfortunately, when you use agencies sometimes like that, they're unemployed because they choose to be unemployed. And so it may not always be the best quality of candidates. And then we also have started, we're using the temp to hire just because we cannot find enough people to hire. So we're bringing temps in, any temps that agencies can find. We're bringing them in for a 90-day period and then hiring them on full time and backdating their hire date so that they're eligible for benefits and things day one. So, And then we do an employee referral program, and we set that up. We were talking about different bonuses and being paid at a different date or gas money. It is an accounting nightmare. And the employee referral program we set it up hoping to help retain employees. So we thought after 90 days, we'd pay half, and then after 6 months, we'd pay the other half. And that has created an accounting and tracking nightmare for us, but it is working. The problem comes when you get the employees that you really don't want to duplicate and they refer somebody, it can be demotivational for them. But we have a 1-week orientation program, and every manager takes part in it. Quality, safety, they spend a day over there. We spend a lot of time and money on our orientation program, hoping to make the employee feel more comfortable when they arrive. And it does aid with the retention. You know, a lot of employees have said that they were impressed that we invested that time and money up front for them. And then I already mentioned the employee referrals. Another thing that I think helps with retention in our company is there's a lot of leadership opportunity. With high performing organizations, we have cell leads that are supervisors, and then we have process leads, maintenance leads also within the cells. And so your average operator or better than average operator can always become a process lead. And so it gives them a little bit of opportunity to learn more and get into a leadership role where they may not have ever considered it with not going to college. And we do promote from within. Everything is posted internally first before we go to the outside. So for the roles, the lead roles, the supervisor roles, we have several individuals. I have one on my HR team that came from within. He's worked his way up from an operator. We have supervisors that have worked their way up from operators, and even one of our quality manager and one of our operations managers have also worked their way up. So like the other companies, we do run, we're basically 24/7. We have many work schedules. I've never seen a company set up this way before, but we have like 9 different schedules. And this is just one of them. This is the new building schedule that we have going into place. So they'll work 4 days on, 2 days off, 3 days on, 2 days off. We have one that works 7 days straight, 5 days off. So once they get in the door, they can pretty much pick and choose their schedule, whatever works for them. Some of them have half the year off when it all evens out. So, and then just a little bit of the data that I had not included in the slides. We have over 20% of our workforce does identify as a minority. Like I said, we try to target campuses that may have a higher percentage of minorities when we go for campus recruiting. We try to send our minority management and HR team. We try to send, those individuals also on the recruiting. So like you said, if they see somebody like them, then they're more apt to talk to them and hopefully join us. The average age for our company is 41. And we have 43% of our workforce is female and 57% is male. So I think another question that came up was felonies. We do look at the felonies on a case-by-case basis. We look and see as far as an entire record. So if they had, an incident 3 years ago, but it's been completely clean since, we're apt to give them more of a chance. And also the more violence crimes, they go under more scrutiny and would have less of a chance getting on. But they're not entirely ruled out. We look at the entire background. I went through that pretty quick for time-wise, but if you have any questions?
Thank you for the overview. I do have a question, and
Sure.
I probably should ask this to Tracy and Brian as well. But so you were in your slide, you showed that you had maybe 25 people that have called off in a day, which is high. So
Yes.
is that due to COVID? Is it due to children not being able to go to school? Like, what's happening?
That was pre-COVID. It's actually higher now.
Okay, gotcha.
So no, as far as the children, it doesn't have anything to do with the children going to school. Like the other said, we don't really encourage ride sharing, especially right now due to COVID, but that also affects when not when COVID isn't happening, it affects 3 or 4 people if they all ride together and one doesn't make it in, then the other 3 call off as well.
I see.
All right, from our standpoint, I can tell you that our call-offs have doubled at a minimum. I mean, especially in the manufacturing lines, we expected 30 to 40 people to call in a day. We do have quite a few employees, and it is, the 60, 70 range at this point. And obviously, it's whether it's a child or whatnot, I guess you can classify this however you want. If the kid gets COVID, then the parent's been around the kid, then they're quarantined as well. So they're not
Correct.
necessarily calling off because they have COVID, but they are definitely calling off because of COVID.
Right.
I would tell you on any given day at Hobart prior to COVID, we have about 10% of our staff absent for whatever reason. Maybe it's vacation, maybe they're sick, whatever. Since COVID, we've actually been really, I'm almost afraid to say it out loud and knocking on wood. We've been really lucky. Our attendance due to COVID related issues has only gone up by, like, on our worst day, 3 to 4%.
Wow.
So we
That's
feel
awesome.
really, really lucky.
Can I ask, are you paying for any COVID leaves? Okay.
Our employees, yes. They
Yeah,
get 10 days if they're sick or quarantined, and sick up to 10 days if they had a high risk condition.
Right.
And then there's also time for childcare.
We've had-
You talked about some campus outreaches. Does anyone, this can be for anyone, but obviously, probably Miss, is it Miss or Mrs. Hatch, I assume?
Miss Hatch, yes.
Miss Hatch.
Yes.
Is there any company, are you guys reaching out to HBCs, which is historically black colleges?
Yes. Yes, we are. Yes. We've been reaching out, our corporation, because we have to also have an affirmative action plan. And so our corporation, we target those campuses that are the higher percentage of minorities.
When the companies are saying that they have the affirmative action plan, do you have something in the lines of like the HEART program to complement your affirmative action program as well? And are you interested in learning and maybe bringing that to your facilities as well? I love being.
We do not, yeah, we do not have a HEART program, but I wrote that down. I thought that was awesome. That's a great program. I'm definitely interested.
Right.
They could be CART, yeah, CART and CART.
I was gonna say, it might be hard.
CART.
I think it's something starts with an H, but hey,
Your logo won't be as cool.
no, not nearly as cool.
We'll have to come up with something else.
Right.
Someone just explain really quickly, what are your requirements if you're an affirmative action or a business? Like, what does that mean? Is there a percentage or?
There's percentages that you are to try to reach as far as the applicants that apply. And so you have to have your minority base for employees that you hire should be in a ratio to the minority of candidates in the community.
It's government mandated.
Okay,
Yes.
gotcha.
I know one of the things that we've talked about, building up to this meeting is for any of the companies, which is what would you like to see the city of Troy, specifically Troy City government, what we can do to complement and help diversify your workforces, and also even fill in these jobs. What do you think we're lacking in, or could build upon?
Come on, guys.
No, it's okay.
Don't all speak.
Can they
at
not
once.
hear?
Are you asking all of us that, or just Sean?
Grabs.
So I'll jump in first and say, I think it starts with getting people in the area who are interested in and prepared for manufacturing jobs. That's one, right?
Mhm.
And then two, to what we talked about earlier, is building a community that embraces and celebrates diversity so that when we do have diverse employees here, they feel comfortable and safe and welcomed and heard and valued and all those awesome things that should just come with being a human.
And as was
Boy,
said
that sounded
earlier,
really preachy. I'm sorry.
It did not.
I was about to give you another amen.
I mean, me and Todd have had this conversation. I mean, it comes down to the fact, if you look at the houses that are being built in Troy, they're not exactly lending to a manufacturing element, right? I mean, I live in Marymount and the house is being built behind me. I'm not sure who can afford all can afford all those houses, but they're sure being sold. And from a standpoint, if you're looking for a manufacturing type employee that's coming into the area, which is what we need, there's not a lot of housing going up to support that type of income. It's literally all 400, 500, 600. I mean, yay for Bart and Frank and Tony for building houses all throughout the area, but the houses they're building are at a certain price range. So, I mean, to me, if you're looking at what you're selling in the city of Troy, you're selling a certain economic threshold.
Thank you for that, Brian. That was really dead on.
You are not saying anything we haven't said.
I don't-
It's not even homes. It's also apartments, right? I mean, it's
Right.
all-
I mean, we had a 23-year-old daughter. She was looking for an apartment in Troy, and it was not an easy venture.
I know Ms.
And I
Hack wanted-
agree. I agree with what they're all saying, what the others are saying 100%. I do think everything needs to, be affordable, and it needs to cater and attract the manufacturing employees. Also, though, I don't understand how they can afford to call off a day a week. So I'm not sure how to do that balance.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. And we have done lots of studies on cost of living, and we're very I mean, I understand housing is an issue, but I mean, comparatively, you're still a very attractive for the amenities area. Not trying to toot Troy's horn from being on city council, but we do offer, there obviously are things we can do better, but our cost of living is not excessive compared to Westchester or any of the other comparable areas, Lebanon, that would be competing with us for, which is primarily why Pella came, because they thought we could generate a workforce. It's just going to be very competitive. I didn't hear from Hobart or ConAgra. What are your wages? Are you comparable? 30,000 a year to start, basically, plus incentives or benefits?
Somebody off the street would start at ConAgra with no manufacturing. I mean, if they just walked in with no manufacturing experience at all or education other than high school or GED, they'd start out $17 an hour.
That's 35,000 a year, basically.
Yes. And then the benefits are all comparable to the other companies in the area. We offer the medical, dental, vision, short-term disability, long-term disability. We have an outstanding 401k. I've never, actually, that's what attracted me to ConAgra, is I'd never heard of one, but they do 3% for every employee, regardless if the employee invests or not. And then they match dollar for dollar on the next 6%. So the company does 9%. So, but the younger generation doesn't care about that right now. They don't understand that.
He does.
You got a potential
We
right
got
here.
one.
So our starting, I'm sorry, Sean, are you finished?
Yes, I'm finished. Go ahead.
Okay, so our manufacturing employees who walk in off the street for an operator role will start at $15.50 on an off shift. They're eligible for an increase in months and then annually thereafter. Our process leads, process techs, maintenance, quality, all of those other jobs will start north of that, far north of that. Our health insurance plans, again, I mean, we're part of ITW, so we've got really good benefits, 3 different benefit plans to choose from, a PPO, both 2 PPO plans, and then a health saver that's a high deductible plan. Sean, our 401ks sound very similar. Our retirement plan is incredible. Short-term, long-term disability, EAP, all of that stuff. And then the other thing that I think is just an incredible benefit for our employees, and not necessarily the employees, but the causes that are near and dear to them. When our employees donate to a nonprofit of their choice, our company triples their contributions up to $15,000 a year. It's huge, right? I don't know, Trey, have I missed any of the other benefits that are super? Tuition reimbursement? We've got that.
Yep.
We have, I'm sorry, we have tuition reimbursement as well, but out of the 887 employees, we only have 5 that take advantage of that. And that just,
Yeah, not
I'm
a lot
surprised by
of
that.
it, yeah.
We struggle with the same thing. We have tuition reimbursement, and we have people that start the program, never finish it, and we have very few that actually start it or take advantage of it in general.
Yes, it's disappointing.
As HR managers, are any of you able to, just off the top of your head, like, are you filling out a lot of job and family services paperwork? Are your employees still getting food stamps? I mean, do you know that? Like, I'm just curious because, you know, sometimes when we hear 15, 17, in reality right now, that's still not enough to pay your bills and raise a family. So I think from the outside looking in, sometimes people assume that that's enough to springboard a family out. So I was just curious, do you find yourself filling out a lot of paperwork to, you know, to send to Job and Family Services, or people actually?
No,
Okay.
no, I know when they were doing the 600 for unemployment,
Right.
we had several employees who suddenly had COVID and thought they could still get unemployment and were disappointed when that didn't work for them, but the Job and Family Services now.
So I want to ask a question, because you've all talked about this tuition assistance and tuition reimbursement and things like that. Do you have a program where it's like mentor to mentee, where you're mentoring employees through that process to encourage them to stay with it, to be able to complete their degree? Say you have
We don't have a mentor for that, but we do pair up new hires with mentors for other things, but we don't have one specifically for tuition reimbursement.
Well, I'm not thinking about just tuition reimbursement. Say you have a leader in say your chief operating officer, your COO, right?
Yes.
He or she is doing the job, but you have an employee that has aspirations to become a COO. What
Yes.
have you connected that individual to kind of follow or go under wing of that individual and potentially?
We do have programs. We do have a mentorship for that. We also do succession planning, and our succession planning is 2-part, where we identify who could replace us, you know, in a year, in 3 years, and in 5 years. But also the second part of that is, where do you want to be in a year? Where do you want to be in 3 years? Where do you want to be in 5 years? And so that we can partner them up, because a lot of times we may identify somebody and say, oh, that's our next maintenance manager, but that person wants out of maintenance as quickly as possible.
Right.
So we do a 2-part succession planning every year.
We do, sorry, go ahead, John.
No, that was it. That's fine.
So we do as well. And actually, I think it's been over the years, we have been fairly successful in it. Our director of manufacturing was a shop floor employee at one time. Actually worked for me a long time ago, but now he runs our Troy Antarushi manufacturing plant. Our vice president of sales came from our shop floor. We have a lot of success stories where a lot of our management actually came up through our shop floor mentality. I started out of college for Clopay as a tech service rep, and have worked my way up through the company. We do a lot of internal hiring, and we do mentor people coming up through the ranks to try to bring them up through succession planning. We have the same thing. Every year you get a review. Your review, a big portion of that review is to go through and say, where do you want to be? What is your 5-year plan? How do I help you get to that 5-year plan? And some of those are education. We have that conversation with employees all the time, especially in my area, customer service group. When I have somebody who's a customer service rep, well, where do you want to go, and how do I help you get there? And a lot of those conversations are based on education and the tuition reimbursement. We have had quite a few employees take advantage of that. Some leave the company, some stay within the company, some are managers now because they did take advantage of it. I wish more did. And the one thing I think we need to figure out how to do is to get more people down that path so that they do climb that ladder. But it's, we have a lot of success stories within Clopay of people coming up through the floor, coming up from an entry-level job. And that is the bulk of our management here now.
How much interaction is there between the employers? Like, you guys are all having the same issues, and it would seem like if there was a process where you guys could all communicate like tonight, that we would be in a situation where perhaps we could solve some of those problems. How much engagement is there between the companies in Troy?
Not a lot. I mean, you've got, I mean, we all, a lot of the companies have representation on like the chamber board. I'm on the board of the chamber board and things like that. So I think all of the different companies have representation on some of the various boards in Troy. I think some of the oddities with Troy is that we have like 15 different organizations and everybody's got people on all of them. But I don't think there's any one kind of group that allows people to have open and honest conversations. But you also have to be concerned about that and the fact that you don't want to go through and be accused of collusion or price fixing or anything along those lines. So that's the reason I think a lot of people are very nervous and scared about sharing wage rates and everything else. Because when you start going down those paths, it starts to become, hey, did you just fix a wage in the area so that employees can never get above this because they have nowhere to go? That's dicey, right? I mean, there's a lot of legal ramifications in that. So I think people would love to have those conversations. And I think all the manufacturers in Troy would love to be able to get together and have open and honest conversations. But there's certain legal ramifications to that.
Yeah, Todd, you know that.
Right, Todd? I mean, come on, you're a lawyer. So, I mean, there's certain things that are troubling.
It's like verification that you guys wouldn't be colluding on.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he's recording this, right? You know he is. So he's going to file it up later. Just give him.
We are recording it, but I think there is a way that you know, I'm not a lawyer or anything like that, but there is a way that you can have a business roundtable of sort to be able to have each business representative to talk about those issues without discussing.
Troy Chamber.
That's what the chamber and the TDC do.
Okay.
Troy Chamber of Commerce does that, absolutely.
Okay.
So does all, I'm about to put you in now, but does everyone, for the individuals on this call right now, do you join in at that table with the chamber and have those conversations? No. So how can you really address things if you don't come together as a unit?
I mean, wouldn't investing in a mutual child care raise your return on investment
Transportation.
or transportation? Like,
Funding
again,
habitat.
I know rides worked at 800 rides, I think in a month,
Right.
9,000 a year. So again, like investing back in the community, social responsibility, whatever title we want to put on it, maybe that's a facilitated conversation that jump on it.
I think we almost need to bring chamber in on this conversation.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I mean, like the TDC already has a child care task force and Clopay does sit on that task force. So those discussions are happening. Transportation, we tried, but haven't like really gotten there. So I mean, I think there's things in the works. It does take a little more time than just having one business roundtable.
Yeah, no worries. I think the child care task
and-
force has been around for.
Well,
Yeah.
the one with businesses at the table is brand new. Yeah,
Okay.
it is brand new,
Okay.
and I know that we have businesses at the table who think that they may be able to get funding,
Okay.
you know, if there's something down the road, but,
Gotcha. That's
yeah,
awesome.
so there are avenues and, you know, while everyone at the table are on the call right now, they're not at the table right now. There have been times that there have been issues where every HR department in the community has been invited to the table with the TDC or the chamber for different issues, so.
So I'd like to encourage you guys to join that roundtable. I really do. I don't know if you have any way. I just like to encourage you to join the roundtable with the Troy Chamber of Commerce, please.
And Todd, could I add that I think what's also missing at that table, because I'm the nonprofit in the room, is Melissa Klutz from the Troy Foundation. You know, a lot of the issues that you're speaking to are the top 4 needs assessments that were identified and for the beginning of this year by a community needs assessment from Foundation. Transportation, housing, childcare, and the last piece being mental health as being the top 4. And, you know, one of the things that we are finding within our discussions in our community is that philanthropy alone cannot pay for all of it. And when you talk about a Rise to Work program at 9,000 rides a year, and you look at the cost effectiveness of keeping a ship running and, you know, whatever those pieces, whatever those pieces are missing from, you know, why people aren't coming to work. And the conversation has to include at the table the nonprofits that are providing a lot of this service, because they're the ones bringing in the money, but they can't do it. There's not enough philanthropy in this community to pay for all of those things that they can't 100% fix the voids that you have in your hiring, but they definitely could be making a dent in it. And, you know, there's some really successful rideshare programs, not during COVID, and I get that, where incentive programs have been found to be really helpful. I think they're doing some of that actually in Pickup at a couple of companies. And so, Luxury, I think I'm inviting nonprofits to the table, I guess, because I do think that they know the people that you're trying to hire, and they know the barriers that are standing between you being able to hire them as well. And I think that's a huge piece for our community to be able to help fix this.
I'd like to say maybe people not utilizing those college funds is indicative sign of survival. And just trying to make ends meet, keep your overtime, have their families, stay COVID-free. So again, thank you all for coming. Thank you, Melissa, for sharing.
I just think, you know, we've talked about a lot of things that perhaps are wrong, but we are so blessed and fortunate to have companies like you guys in Troy, and we appreciate everything that you guys do. I mean, I was on city council in the 90s, and it was a rough go for the community, and where we've gone from then to where we are now, you know, from an abandoned building at Panasonic to everything you guys done in Clopay, from Dinner Bell to where you guys have gone, and of course Hobart has been a leader in the community for years and years and years. And you know, I can tell you from at least one council person's perspective, we greatly appreciate you guys being here and all that you've done. And as Tracy said, you know, this is eye-opening, and I think we can all do better. And I appreciate everybody being here, but we also don't want to be neglectful. And thank you guys for all that you do, because when you look at the philanthropy that Melissa's talking about, when you have a matching up to $15,000 per employee, those monies get used so well in our community and are so beneficial for our community. So I would just conclude my part by saying thank you guys for being good stewards of the community.
Thank you. Thank you for the invite to this.
Slim Jims. Slim Jims.
We would like the next time for you to actually come in and bring us some Slim Jims, please. I'm just saying.
That was the plan this time. That was the plan. And I ended up under quarantine myself, so.
Before we move on to public comments, Mayor Oda had a meeting today and she was not able to attend the HRC Commission meeting, but she asked me to thank you for attending today's meeting and giving us brief presentations about your company and all the information provided. And she told me to thank you, all of you. So thank you.
You're welcome.
So are we gonna go to the, well, we already had public comments. I
We
don't know if
did, we
need
spoke
any
out
more.
there.
That's okay.
Amen on that?
Yes.
No, we did not have any public comments not made.
Figured that out.
It's in your court, Marvin.
All right. So there's no more public comments?
I don't think so.
No, we don't.
Okay, gotcha.
We spoke our piece. I know.
So we'd just like to say thank you to Hobart and Clopay and ConAgra for coming tonight. We really appreciate the work that you're doing in our community. And if there's any way that we can work with you to help serve, our whole goal and mission is to help the citizens of Troy, to be, I guess, more connected to large corporations here, small corporations here. And so if there's any way for us to do that, and then if there's any way for us to work with the city to help with any cause that you have, we would love to partner with you and do that. So thank you for your time. We really appreciate you. So I think that's all we have for this evening. So I would like to-
I just wanted to, one thing for all the companies before we end. I think it would be really great. A lot of what we talked about was, changing the view of the company, or not the company, the city. And I think that starts with community conversation. I think it would be really great for our nonprofits and our companies and our other organizations within Troy to sponsor a community conversation. We can really get the word out to have that conversation with people and how we can really make change. And a place where we can welcome everyone.
Yep. Yes.
Todd, add that to one of your initiatives,
Okay.
okay?
I make a motion.
We're gonna make a motion to end the meeting.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Happy holiday, happy Turkey Day. Or,
Pizza.